Well, hello there. It is the first part of February. I think it's the 6th today. And down here in the South in Georgia, February is time to spruce up the crepe myrtles. A lot of folks have crepe myrtles. I've got some. So we're going to trim them up. And what I'm using, I've used this the last year or two. We've only been in this house about 3 years. But I've got this little mini chainsaw. It's got a battery, it's electric. I believe I got it off Amazon a couple years ago. But now, I mean, they're even more common. You can get them anywhere. You can probably get them in town from like Tractor Supply, shit like that. So this is what I'm using. It's got one little button that you push and then a trigger. Comes on. Super easy. This one came in a little case. Came with 2 batteries and it has a charger. Plugs into the wall. It goes on red when the battery is dead or needs to be charged, and it'll turn green when it's full. This one wasn't quite full, but I'm out of juice, so I grabbed another battery. And what I like to do when I trim my crepe myrtles up, because this yard is so big and I'm one person with 6 kids and a bunch of other shit going on, I don't, trim the grass after I cut it with my riding mower a lot, because it takes me a couple of days to cut all of this grass, or one full 12-hour day to cut all this grass just with a riding mower. So I don't always trim or weed eat or whatever you want to call it. So what I like to do when I'm going out to trim these crepe myrtles up is I'll trim the crepe myrtles themselves, and then I've got my little weed eater, my trimmer, and I'll trim around all of these to make them look nice. I only do this a couple times a year, so there's grass and shit that grows up around them during the year, so they kind of look like shit. But I just don't have time to come out here and trim with my grass trimmer, twice a week or whatever, even once a week. I don't have time for that. So I'm going to get to an example here and show you what I do. If you look online, there's information on how to trim the crepe myrtles up, which is where I learned. And the big thing they talk about is what they call crepe murder. Get it? Crepe myrtle, crepe murder. Anyway, and I still see this shit around town, whether it be businesses or houses or whatever. Hell, the church right over there on the corner does this to all their crepe myrtles. They'll come through, and I guess they want to keep them at a certain height, but they'll come through and just whack these sons of bitches off 5 or 6 feet up or 4 feet up or whatever, and they'll just cut them all off. They'll top them, I think is the actual term for it, is topping the crepe myrtle. I don't want to do that. I'm trying to get mine to look as pretty as the one across the street. Their whole driveway is lined like this, but theirs probably had another 5 or 6 years from what this bunch of crepe myrtles has had to grow. So theirs makes a canopy over their driveway, which I like. It looks nice. So I'm trying to get these to that point. Like I said, we've been here about 3 years. The guy before me, I don't think he trimmed these up very often. So I've been doing it now for 2 years, and I do it once a year. And all I'll do, the first thing you want to do is down here at the bottom, they call these suckers. These little small ones that are coming off the bottom, you want to cut them off. So I'll come in here with this old chainsaw. And I'll cut it off. And I'll do that for all of this shit down at the bottom. Like that. And get the bottom all cleaned up. And like I said, you see all that grass and pine straw? I'll come back with that weed eater. And I'll get all this around here cleaned up with that weed eater. Some of these you can just grab with your hand and pull off. Like these little bitty ones, you can just grab them and snap them off. That keeps the bottom of your crepe myrtle, looking nice. And it gets it to where, from my understanding, these bottom trunks that are all nice and big, they'll get bigger and they'll grow. And a lot of times they'll grow into one. I wonder if I have an example on this one. Some of these I have an example on where these branches, when they intermingle, they just start like growing together, and they'll make a one big, pretty, nice ass trunk at the bottom, kind of going up. That's what my neighbor across the street has. All his are nice. They look like a big full tree kind of deal at the bottom, big trunk. So that's what you want to do across the bottom, get all those suckers off of there. And then what I do is I just go about, I'm 6 feet tall, so I just go about 6 or 7 feet up. And like ones like this, you know, if I have like a main trunk or kind of like a secondary trunk coming off of here that's kind of big already, I'll just come through and trim this one off like that. Same thing for all these up here. So really everything, and it may depend on how long you've had your crepe myrtles. If they're still small, you may not be able to go up this high. You may have to keep all your trimming down a foot or two off the ground to get them to this point. But I'm gonna trim off everything up here because I've already got all the little roots, or the trunks, I mean. I've already got all the little trunks that I want established. All this stuff up here, they call this the canopy. You can also thin your canopy out. If you've got a lot of shit up here, all intermingled, intertwined, it keeps sunlight from getting down here. And I heard that's not real good for your tree. So sometimes I'll even come up here, you know, about 7 foot up and trim some of these off. But if you want to, I've got a ladder over there. If I have any that are really bad, you can get a ladder and get up here on a ladder and trim some of these off up here. If you have a canopy kind of like this, where you've got some that are in the middle touching each other, you can come through and trim them off too. Just like that. So I'll go through here, and all of this stuff that I see, I'll just cut it off. These in here. Like I said, all the way around. And what I've noticed too, a lot of times you can see where probably last year I've cut this part off that was going this way. You'll have new growth that comes up right from that little knot that you've cut. So I've noticed that a bunch. Everywhere I've cut something off the previous year, I'll have 2 or 3 that are shooting out of it. So when you get done with it, you know, it should look something like this, where you don't have all of that growth, those little bitty pieces coming off of it. You've got just your nice, larger trunks that are coming up. And then I just leave all the stuff up top. You know, that's where you get your flowers and shit from, or these up here, they'll bloom. So I just leave that about 6.5, 7 foot, you know, 6, 7 foot off of the ground. And I just mainly hit the stuff that's kind of at my eye level or lower. And that's it. And you want to do this in Georgia anyway. It might be true everywhere, but you want to do it towards the end of winter. Because like I said, we're in the 2nd week of February now. So we may have 1 or 2 more cold nights, you know, freezes where it's 32 or so degrees, 30 degrees. But you just don't want to wait too long and start cutting these when they're starting to bloom and develop. You want to get them where it's still dormant, where all this stuff isn't really growing. But you don't want to do it too soon either, like in November, and have new growth start forming and then get hit by the freeze and it'll kill that stuff off. So do it around mid-February if you can. And this is what I'm going to do. Get all this shit trimmed up all the way down, and they'll be looking good for another season. Get out there and get at it.